this week, and he did contact Andy to see if he would fill in as the chair of the board pro temp. So to get the meeting going, I'll take a motion second for Andy to serve as pro temp for this meeting.
Move that Andy serve as pro temp for this meeting.
Second.
Raise of hands, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, take it away, Andy.
All right, well, I call to order this meeting of the Auburn Water District Trustees for May 19th, 2021. I think the first order of business will be to approve the minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting of April 21st?
I move that we approve the meeting of April 21st, 2021.
I have a motion by Bob, second by Casey. Any discussion, any changes, any omissions or errors? Not hearing any. All those in favor of approving the minutes, raise your hand. Any opposed? That looks like it's unanimous.
Kevin, can you just say aye where your camera's blocked?
Oh, my camera's blocked?
Yeah.
Shouldn't be.
Let's hear the ayes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
You guys can't see me?
No,
No, it shows a black screen.
Really?
I can
I
see,
can
I
see
can see
you.
him.
Yeah.
I can see him.
Oh,
Yeah,
Maybe it's, you know.
I see me too.
yeah, I do not.
Quite interesting.
All right. I'll stop it and restart it maybe. Maybe see if that helps. Oh, sorry about that, you guys.
So is everybody seeing you now?
I see you.
I don't see him.
I don't see him
Are you
still.
on wireless,
No,
Mike?
you can't. I'm looking really good.
All right.
So we'll carry on.
Are we going to carry on then? Are we all set?
Yeah, just
All
say
right.
aye on the votes, just so I know.
I will.
All right. So item number 2 would be a financial report update by Tanya.
Gallons sold is up just 2% from this time last year. And along with the new rates, the revenues remain strong. Total expenses are almost $14,000 over budget, with distribution system maintenance driving that due to stockpiling materials, and parts for hydrants and service boxes is up. And like you've heard from the past couple months, prices for parts and supplies continue to rise. Mike's been working really hard with vendors to secure prices and materials both for inventory and projects. Cash on hand at the end of April was at a healthy $2 million. Capital projects are underway, and Mike will go into those details.
Any
Does anybody have
questions?
any questions?
Yeah, Tanya, is it possible to go back another year or two on that cash in hand chart? It's not pressing. I'd love to see it because there's all that extra space. If you could make it bigger and go back a couple years, that'd be awesome. If not,
Yeah.
don't worry about it. Just a thought.
Yeah, I think we could fit some more in there. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And Tanya, my question is, how are we trending on receivables? Have we, it looks like the numbers are, kind of dropping, but are we having any real issues with all the liens we put against folks and all that, or?
Some of the liens, the 120 days that are going down are typically liens that are paid off, getting paid. So everything's trending downward. It's trending, not jumping anymore like it was there, but it's going in a positive direction.
But we
Sure.
can do shut-offs if necessary, if there's no payment plan involved. The lien's one
Absolutely.
option, but if we're starting that process again.
We are, yes, and actually today was shut off day. So,
And tomorrow will be a big payday.
yes,
Right?
yep, absolutely.
Okay. Terrific. Any other questions on the financial report? Okay, then I think we move on to item number 3, ratify payment of the bills. Do I hear a motion?
I move that we ratify the payment of bills.
I'll second that.
Okay, any questions on the bills presented in the packet?
I just had one question. The chimney repair, Mike? What was that?
So about back in March, a portion of the chimney actually collapsed off the top of the building and landed on Sid's truck. Fortunately, it didn't cause any damage to Sid's truck, but the chimney was left in a kind of a fragile state. Some of the pointing in between the brickwork had failed. Water had gotten in there, and frost had split the chimney, so that piece fell off. So we tried to run that through our insurance, but it wasn't covered. But we did have the chimney repaired and repointed and sealed, so it shouldn't happen again. So,
Okay,
but
thank you. Thanks.
And you Sid answered my questions.
Okay. So all in favor, do we have to vote on that? I can't remember.
Yes, we do.
All right, all in favor of ratifying payment of the bills?
Aye.
Say aye.
All right,
Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Looks like that's unanimous. Okay, looks like we're on item number 4, which is the open session. Is there anybody on, Mike?
Nope.
Nobody's on, so I guess we'll close this open session. Next item is item number 5, activity report and the project updates with Mike.
all right, activity reports. We have been busy working on projects in April. We'll go over some of those in more detail in a little bit. There haven't been, as you see in Gates, there wasn't any activity. There hasn't been any large scale paving projects just yet, which would drive up that activity. Hydrants, we did have, April was a little light, but we did have a significant number of hydrants that we repaired through the winter. A lot of it was just some maintenance things that we needed to get caught up on. We didn't have as many traffic related hydrant issues this winter because we had a lack of snow. Big thing in hydrants is flushing this time of year. Every year we flush all of our hydrants. I actually can, let me see if I can screen share real quick. This is our a dashboard we have that I kind of monitor our flushing activities. If you see on the right, all the hydrants in green have been flushed. All the hydrants in red are yet to be flushed. So over on the left, you'll see we're just about 70%. We're gaining probably about 4 or 5% a day. Starting next week, we'll have all of the night work done. The night work consists of most of the stuff in the downtown area, going out Center Street, Minot Ave. Again, we do that at night to minimize the impact on businesses and commercial customers. So going out towards Poland and this end of Hotel Road, we can flush that all during the day. So I suspect by the end of this month, we should have this wrapped up. So hydrant flushing is going well. New services, that's kind of light for the month of April, but I suspect a big windfall coming. It's very busy out there right now. There's lots of development and growth going on. So there's going to be quite a few new services this year, which always helps out. We did have a water service leak over on Western Ave that we fixed. Meters are kind of trending normal. The dig safe activity, I think, is the only other thing that really stands out. If you look at the number of dig safes that we took in compared to where we were at this time last year, almost 100 more dig safes. Again, the comparison between COVID and where we're at now. But outside of that, there's nothing abnormal in the activity report unless somebody had a question about something specific.
So the relocation of the hydrant at Gracelawn had to do with the new main they had to put in there, or what was that?
Yeah, that actually didn't have to do with the new main per se, but it did have to do with their project. They added sidewalks on both sides, on both sides of Gracelawn. So before there were no sidewalks. So with the sidewalks, it would have put the hydrant right in the middle of the sidewalk. So that's pretty standard that we would move that back so that the hydrant is behind the sidewalk, so that it, again, they can clear that during snow removal. We did that before we knew about the main relocation work. So anyways, that's what that was.
And that's something we do on our dime just because we're working with them, right?
We usually do eat those. It's something that's planned and that we knew about. I knew we were going to have to do that. That was something they had presented. I did know about that. So, yep.
Now, that, a question would come up if they were doing a major reconstruction of, like Park Avenue, for example. If there were 4 or 5 to move, we would still move them without any expectations of payment.
Yeah, I mean, as long as we know about them in advance and we can plan for it, yeah, that's something that we generally work on and we work around, we have to cooperate and exist in the same right of way as everything else, and to make it work, sometimes you got to move stuff around, so.
Okay.
So yeah, that's it for activity report. You want to just roll right into project
You
update?
can roll right, yeah, you can roll right into project update. Yeah.
All right, I think Sid was going to talk about 3rd Street.
Yeah, I'll take the first one there, 3rd Street. You might remember the last trustee meeting we had last month. At the time, they had not got the bids back for the 3rd Street reconstruction project. The trustees did approve the budgeted amount of $130,000 to go ahead and move forward with that project. That's one of the major water main replacement projects we have going on this summer. This construction season is proving to be a very challenging one. Something I mentioned to the sewer trustees last night. We're experiencing in the bidding climate a lack of laborers to do a lot of the work, and also a lack of materials, a lack of pipe to put in the ground. It's a hard thing to find, and it's really impacting construction. It's impacting bids that are coming in, and this one is no exception. The bids came back for the 3rd Street project in late April. As you know, we're doing this in conjunction with the city. They're reconstructing the road, and while they're doing that, we want to replace the water main. So it's a project we're doing jointly. The water main bids came back much higher than anticipated. The low bidder for that project was Longchamps and Son. They came back, their portion of that contract came in at a little over $226,000. So that really blew our estimate out of the water. When you add all the cost for what we need to do to get that project done, when you add the contractor, us supplying the pipe for it, us doing the temporary water services, chlorination, and so forth, the total project estimate comes up to, it ballooned up to $316,000 to do that. So we've been racking our brain trying to figure out what we can do about this project. Unfortunately, that is tied, that contract for that water main is tied to the road reconstruction project. We can't really take another, we can't delay this and go back out to bid for that portion of it because it is tied to the road reconstruction. We can't simply do it with our own crews because we're committed to a number of other different projects at the same time. So as I mentioned in my project update, I did immediately after these bids came back, I did touch base with Steve at the time because we really needed to move on this. It's not a great situation. However, if you look at the other side of it, we are early in the construction season. There are some potential savings in some of the other projects that we are doing in-house, and our revenues are tracking, as Tanya mentioned, very well right now. Recommendation would be to modify our approval from last year and go ahead and approve this new amount of $316,000. Again, it's with reluctance that I'm doing it, but I'm not sure that we really have much of a choice. This is again one of the major projects we're hoping to get done this summer, and hopefully again during the course of the construction season we can make up some of the overruns in this project with some others.
Sid, can I ask? We thought we could do this for around 130,000 in total?
We did. We budgeted this just like we have every other project we've done. And we thought that was going to cover our expense, but when those numbers came back, our jaws hit the floor. This is an expensive year to be doing this type of work.
So Sid, the 226,440 is for labor and equipment only, basically?
Right. It's for them to install that main up through that that Third Street area.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. But these guys, I think they're all bidding high because everybody's out straight. I figure, heck. if
There were three
someone
bids
can-
on that project. They were not even low bid on the water main portion. If you compare just the water main portion together. And one thing I mentioned last night to the sewer trustees, it really is a crazy bidding climate right now. The town of Poland was going to be extending their sewer main, and they pulled the bid because they only got 2 people that even took out plans. No one has laborers. No, like I said, no one has laborers. No one has the raw materials to put in the ground right now. It's crazy. So they postponed that bid and they're going to put it back out again in September, hopefully to get better numbers. But we don't really have that luxury with this project because it's something that needs to move forward this construction season.
And there's really no way that, like Auburn, city of Auburn has excavator and people available to dig we're talking about digging a trench. We're putting the pipe in the ground, right? I mean, we need somebody that can safely dig a trench, or, I mean, we're supplying the pipe, we're connecting it, we're doing all that. All we need to do is have somebody dig a trench, right?
Well, no, we're doing the temporary water services
Yeah.
while the water main replacement is going on. So
Yep.
yeah, it's not, we can't simply plug someone else in to do that work.
Because
That's,
we're not putting the pipe in the ground then.
no,
We're just supplying it. They're doing all that. They're connecting it. They're doing everything.
right.
It just seems like we've, like I said, this is a heck of a rock and a hard place
Yeah,
situation.
believe me, if there, Mike and I have racked our brains. If there was a different way to do this, we certainly would.
Do we need to reapprove a new figure, that 316 versus the 130?
I would prefer that to happen. You know, whenever something like this comes out, I want full disclosure of what we're looking to spend. This would be a capital improvement. So it's not otherwise approved in the budget.
Do we have any other capital projects going forward that are going to be in the same category, Sid?
There are not on the water side. The other projects we have, and Mike's going to be going over those in a few minutes. Those are projects we are doing in-house, and we've planned for it.
Okay, so this is the only one that we're kind of, got somebody's foot on our necks, right?
Well, I don't like to put it that way, but
Well, I'm just saying, we have no choice. We're stuck,
right.
right?
Yeah,
That's the way of putting it though.
Yeah.
We were aligned with the city on the bid, so yes, we're kind of stuck with accepting the contractor that was low bidder overall, even though the low bidder overall wasn't low bid on the water work. There's no way you'd be able to get a second contractor in there to work in conjunction with the other one. There's just not enough space. There's not enough time. There's not enough, like Sid said, we really racked our brains. There's really no alternative to this without spoiling the whole thing. I do feel pretty strongly some of the other projects that we're going to be putting forward and some of the ones that we're currently working on and getting done, there's going to be savings there and revenues are up. We've looked at it. We think we're going to be okay. So it's just.
Yeah, my only concern was that going forward, we try to pay for stuff out of cash. And if all of a sudden it's double or more, then our cash depletes much quicker with much less work being done. So it's really important that we know what's going on in the future.
I know Tanya and I have been working really hard to build a model that we can use to help us, to plan for 2022. Look what's going on with the pricing now. How are we going to plan for next year? So we're building a model so that next year when we do our planning, we can use these figures to help plan out next year. Again, because I don't know where this climate's going to go. Right now, we're dealing with 50% increases in materials. And then now the new added thing with you can't even get materials. Even if you pay 50% more, you can't even get pipe. We're in a good position. We've got our pipe. We've got everything we need to put this in. we're just now, stuck with the increased costs and the labor issues out there. So, yeah, it's tough.
Mike, the Stevens Mills Road project that the crew's been working on, they've been working on that efficiently, and they've been doing that under budget. Is that right?
Yeah, right now, we still have a little bit more work to do out there, and we still have to pave. But I feel like we're gonna, right now we're at 50% of our budget on that project. I feel like we're gonna be able to save a good, 25, 30,000 on that one. Again, some of the other projects I'm going to talk about in a little bit. I think there's room for savings there. There is some room. We were lucky that, I kind of went out on a limb. We bought our pipe very early this year because I heard the rumor that prices were going to surge. If I was just now looking to order the pipe for these other jobs, we would be in a different boat. I don't think there'd be any savings. Pipe has gone up so much, I can't even keep track of it right now. It's ridiculous. Prices have increased between $10 and $15 a foot on the pipe that we use. When you're trying to do 2 miles of pipe, that's over $100,000 in increase in just pipe alone. That's a hit.
Yeah.
But we're doing well. We ordered early. We secured that stuff. We're in a good position to move forward.
Well, I would think at this point, unless anybody has any other discussion, that we ask for a motion to increase the budgeted amount from 130,000 for Third Street to 316,000 for this particular project.
I'll make that motion.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
And I would also like to say that as long as we do definitely have a plan going forward to look at this, if this is a temporary, or just keep us updated. This could be a temporary thing because obviously contractors, when they've got 50% more work than they can do, they have a tendency just to throw crazy prices out there. It can change very quickly by the end of the season too, So I would say as long as we're going to be looking into that, then I would also agree. Any other discussion on it? Do I have a show of hands and an aye? All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, looks like that's unanimous.
Thank
Okay, we
you.
move on to the next one, Stevens Mills. Oh, he's muted.
Mike, you're muted.
You're muted.
Oh, I hate that. Sorry. I'll share my screen real quick. So we have been working on Stevens Mills ongoing. This is replacing a stretch of cast iron here at the beginning of Stevens Mills and then installing a new main from that point, connecting the loop over to Sprucewood. We are also going to be eliminating this cross-country line. So the reason we're installing the new main is, really we're replacing a main. By putting the new main over here, there's development going on here and here that we're going to be able to accommodate that. There really will be no future development in this area. And if there is, they can be served off Hotel or Edgewood. So this work here is done. We're totally done. All the services are connected. The main is in place and on. We're actually going to be paving that starting early next week. The last little piece that we have to do is terminate this, which is just a matter of cutting and capping over here. And then we're going to be we're actually going to insert a 2-inch pipe inside the existing pipe and then hooking up the services with an excavation here. So that work will be done. That's pretty quick work. So that project's on track. Like I said, I think we're going to see some savings on this job, somewhere in the neighborhood of, $10 to potentially $20,000 from what we budgeted. So that's good. There are a couple of projects that we have in our capital plan that we would like to get votes on. The first one I'll jump into is Lucille and Louise. These two streets are up off from South Main over New Auburn. This is South Main over here. Jordan Ave is over here. These two streets are just kind of in parallel to each other. These were chosen because they're old cast iron. It's a very small main, and between the two streets, we average about 4 main breaks out here a year. They're kind of a nuisance. They have been for a little while, so they're good projects to get done. Again, we did secure the materials for this early. And right now we have $147,000 budgeted to do this work. I believe the most expensive part is going to be the paving. I think we are going to come out under what we have marked for this. So I would like to get approval tonight through a motion to proceed with this work. I'm thinking that we're going to be starting this sometime in mid-June. I don't know which street we're going to pick on first, but we're going to be in a good position in June to get it started. So I don't know if we can have a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve paving Lucille and Louise Street.
Second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to accept. This is the pipe replacement on Lucille and Louise Street. And a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, you got that.
All right, the next one, I'll go back to the screen share. So the next block of streets that we're going to be doing in-house is Willow, Pine, Pearl, and School. We actually had tried to do these a few years ago, but we ran out of a construction window and season to do it. These streets are all old cast iron. It's definitely in need of replacement. We are in decent shape as far as off from Goff Street. We've already got stubs out of that street, which was just recently paved. So we've got good starting points to take off from. Right now we have $133,000 budgeted for this work. And again, this is another one that I feel with us doing it in-house, we'll be able to keep costs down and get this done under budget. We would like to get this approved so that, again, if the window opens up in late June, that we can proceed with this work. So we'd like to get this one approved as well for the budgeted amount of $133,000.
Okay, do we have a motion out there?
Make a motion to approve Pine, Willow, and Pearl.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay.
All right, that's great. Appreciate the support there. We're going to get those going. I was going to give you a hydrant update, but I did that under the activity report. I showed you our flushing map. One last thing I wanted to give you an update on as far as projects. Last month, we voted to proceed with a capital improvement plan. We did get under contract with Wright and Pierce Engineers. We have started the process. Right now, we're in the information gathering phase. I have reached out to Eric Cousins and Dan Goyette with the city. As part of the initial information gathering, we're looking at any areas the city is looking to grow. So any areas that they would like to extend water and sewer out into, we're going to get that from Eric. And then also from Dan Goyette, we're going to be looking at, the city's 10-year capital improvement plan for their roads, so we can incorporate that into our study. We're also updating the hydraulic model that we did a few years ago with all of the pipe improvements that we've done over the last 3 years. So that model will be up to date. We're actively working on that. So again, I'll give you another update on that as we proceed next month.
Right, Grace Lawn Road?
Yes, Grace Lawn Road. Oop, I skipped over that. Sorry. Yes, Grace Lawn work. The main work is actually done. The new main is now installed. That's about 1,700 feet of 12-inch main that was installed. On the upper side of the road towards Mount Auburn Ave, after we approved the work last month, they did decide to remove some of their under drain, which removed the conflict with our water main. So we are going to save a little there. There was less work needed than originally thought. So that's good. So yes, the main work is done. We're actually tomorrow going to be tying over the St. Dom's Academy. So we're going to be shutting down the water to the school tomorrow at 4 p.m. The guys will be working a second shift. That way we don't impact any of the activities at the school. So we're going to be getting them tied over to the new main, and then the Grace Lawn Park Apartments will be happening tomorrow at 9 a.m. So once we get them tied over, the old main will be shut off, and they can start their drainage work. So that's gone pretty well. It's gone fairly quick. Genren's done a good job. All the tests passed without an issue. So, you know, it's going well. So.
And how many feet of pipe does this, what we talked about today, include? I mean, these.
So with Grace Lawn and what we've done in Stevens Mills, we're actually over a half a mile so far. So we're doing well. When we get done with Louise, Lucille, and the 3rd Street projects, we will be into our 2 miles of pipe. So that's good. It's going to be a lot happening in the next month as 3rd Street is set to start here soon. So they're going to be actively replacing pipe, and we're going to be over on those other streets. So we're on schedule to hit our mark. So
Terrific.
And on the concerning the Grace Lawn project, we did have a contract drafted up that was that we signed and the city of Auburn signed as well. As you remember, we agreed to pay half of the project up to a limit of $97,000. So that was signed and put in place. So we're going to track all of the project costs and we'll see where it comes out. We may or may not be spending less than that, but we'll see once the project is complete.
Good.
One thing I wanted to mention under activity reports, not here, but last month I mentioned that we were going to be having monthly meetings with the city manager, assistant city manager, and public works director to coordinate projects and things that are going on. We had a meeting just this morning, and I got quite a few updates on some things that are happening. The Lake Auburn study that the city had put out is actually going to be presented to the city council on June 22nd at 5 o'clock. So I will certainly be there for that. They're just wrapping up that study, and there's not going to be a submission of a plan prior to that. So that will be new to everyone on that date, June 22nd. They're going to bring it forward for presentation. And from there, there'll be questions, answers, and I think they'll tweak the report based upon how that presentation goes. So that's going to be something to watch out for. The city's currently doing their comprehensive plan update. And just looking at the status of that, they're looking at revising or updating the transportation section, the recreation section, and the zoning section of the comprehensive plan. They're not going to be making any edits to the environmental section, which is the section that would be the most interested in, because that's the one that talks about the lake protection efforts. So that is not going to be on the table for changing. So that was a good thing to hear. Also talk quite a bit about the stimulus money that is out there and how that's going to be utilized and planned for use. The city is going to be getting the first wave of the stimulus money. The city is looking to be getting $14.2 million over the next 2 years. They're anticipating getting half of that this year and the second half next year. They don't have guidance as of yet as to exactly how that's going to be used or what it's going to be used for. It does need to be spent within 2 years. We're going to be meeting with there's going to be a work group put together that we will be included in prior to on June 22nd. There is going to be as part of that watershed study, there's also going to be a presentation of the work group to talk about the types of things they're looking to fund as part of this wave of stimulus money. I know that the city is looking to expand some utility services to 3 main areas. They're looking at the South Main area out to the Turnpike, seeing what they can do to expand water and sewer out Broad Street out to Witham Road, and then expanding utilities out a little further down Washington Street beyond the Turnpike. So we've been in discussions with them and seeing what it would take to expand our utilities out in that area as well. So it's going to be a busy time, just touching base and making sure we're both on the same page with what we can do and how we can expand those services. The city's coming up with a big list of the roads they're hoping to do as part of the stimulus money as well. Obviously, if the roads are going to be rebuilt, we need infrastructure updated. So, you know, there's just a lot of planning and a lot of thought that's got to go into how this plan is going to be put together and ultimately presented. So that's kind of a quick thumbnail update on what's going on with the city and our efforts to coordinate work with them. And that's all I've got for
That one question. First, I want to bring up the 6/22 meeting for the study. That's a
Yes.
special on Tuesday, right?
Yep,
Looks like
that's that's Tuesday, 5 o'clock, right?
doing a special workshop.
Yes.
For that purpose
Yes.
alone. So just don't be looking for the meeting that particular. It's going to be on a special.
Right.
And then the other thing too is that it's really interesting to watch what if they are going to use some of the stimulus money to repair roads, because obviously, again, I'll go back to we use cash to do our work, and if we're going to pay double, are we going to maybe bond for it? Are we going to deplete our cash flow in order to stay caught up with their stimulus money? I think we need to think about that just in case it becomes something we have to talk about. Or we pass and not repair the infrastructure this time, but we know that costs us more down the road. So that's possible. They're going to get a total of 14 million in the next 2 years. So
Right.
they decide to put 4 or 5 million into repairing roads, and we're not ready because we don't have the cash. And then we really need to have some time to think about that.
Andy, I have a question as well for Sid, regarding the lake study on the June 22nd. I don't think Kevin knows. I think everyone else was here, but we held off on reviewing the bylaws for the protection of Lake Auburn, which is an Auburn Water District trustee function. So can we, for our next meeting, can we get that on the agenda and maybe get some preliminary information in preparation to go to work in August? Because we started a committee and we need to continue that work. We kind of held off because we wanted to see what the city had to say on the protection of Lake Auburn first. So we just have to work that back into our agenda as well. I mean, do you agree with that, Sid?
Yeah, right. Yeah, what you said is exactly right. We were holding off until this study came back and then see what impact that might have had on our efforts to update that document. Are you suggesting getting something from the consultant prior to the 22nd? Because I don't think that's going to be available. Is that what you meant?
No, not from the consultant, but just a review of where we were, where we left off
Right.
for our next meeting. So we'll be prepared to get that on a future agenda item once we get the study. Because I mean, if we're getting it June 22nd, we're not going to see this to our July meeting, right? It's an Auburn Water District.
Right. Right.
But at least it won't be brand new all over again, trying to start from square one. So maybe just a review of what we've got done so far to the trustees.
I think it might be good to have that as an agenda item just to chat over, the way we had it. And then if something does come out, we might even be prepared and say, look, if something does come out that we can start work on this, we could maybe preliminary get a committee formed or however the structure we decide to move forward on, because we should have a decent, structured process to go through that, get it back to the, all the rest of the trustees, I think.
Yep, we could certainly bring that back up for the next meeting.
We're going to have one more meeting before the 22nd, right? Or is that a month that our meeting is late?
Our meeting will be on the
16th,
16th.
Yeah, so we'll have one more meeting before that
Right.
report comes out. So
Right.
I was going to request that somehow we all get copies of that presentation once it's been presented. Yeah, electronic copies.
Yeah, we're not gonna have it, well, yeah, we're not gonna have it in time.
We won't have it for June's meeting, but I would, by July's meeting, if we had a copy of whatever the city has that
Right,
they use for presentation, that would be great for us to have it prior to our July meeting.
certainly.
I think even in the June meeting, it would be good to, we can talk about it then as an agenda item, but it'd be good to just see what we're gonna do once that information comes out and just have a framework for moving forward, just so we don't have to wait another month to even talk about it, you know.
True. Okay, any other comments under activity report project updates? Then I think we'll move on to new business and water quality update.
Yep, as I had in my memo, the turbidity numbers that we've seen are normal for this time of year compared to last year. In April, the average is about a 0.6, which is pretty good. In your packet, I had some graphs that I included. I know last month there was a request to have a little more comprehensive information in terms of water quality. And the 3 graphs I put in there are ones that I've had in the past, but they've been updated. There's a turbidity chart that goes back to 2017. It shows the trending of the turbidity readings we take. We take them every day. One of the interesting things on that turbidity chart, it shows, you know, back in 2018 when we that number spiked and we did our initial algicide treatment. You can see what that did. It brought it right back down again. And you can kind of see how in a normal year, that turbidity kind of follows a normal pattern. Right when you get ice out, it kind of spikes a little bit because the lake gets a little churned up. We have a calm period, and then it usually goes up a little bit during the late summer and fall when most of the algae that might be present in the lake is growing. Yeah, thanks, Mike. There's the turbidity chart. One thing I did not include in these charts is the Secchi disk reading. However, there is a website, mainlakesdata.org. That's all one word. mainelakesdata, mainlakesdata.org. Our Secchi disk readings that we do every year are included on that website. And you can also see Secchi disk readings that are taken by several other lake volunteer monitors throughout the state. There's all kinds of different lakes in there, and their Secchi disk readings that go back several years. So if you're really interested in seeing more, that's a good resource to look at. Just wanted to put that out there. The other charts I gave you are the lake temperature. Did you get that one right there? Yeah, thanks, Mike. That's the lake temperature. As you can see, that how that trends. Obviously, on the x-axis is the days of the year. Vertical axis is the temperature in Celsius. You can see that that's a fairly consistent number, trends consistently over the last 5 years. Obviously cold in the winter and warm in the summer. The last graph that I've got there is the lake elevation. Yep, right there. You can see how that varies seasonally. We try to keep the lake elevation at roughly a 260 elevation. We do control the lake volume by the East Auburn Dam. We can let water out or hold it back as needed. Trying to keep it consistent. If the lake goes too low, you get a lot of exposed shoreline, which makes it subject to wave action, and that can cause erosion of the banks of the shore. So we like to keep the elevation on the high side. We don't want to get too high, because if you do, then you start to actually impact a few of the homes that are on Lakeshore Drive. So that's kind of the controlling factor of how high we keep that lake. But that's just some some data there. The Secchi disc readings that we've had this year are pretty good. We just had one taken this morning. I've got in the report that we had a 8.5 meter range at the deep hole. This morning it was 9.5, so that's a good number. So the lake is trending well. The one thing we have noticed very recently, and this is not unusual, in some of the shallow sections of the lake right now, we've noticed that there is a kind of a filament type algae. It's so new that we haven't analyzed it under the scope yet, but we're assuming it's some kind of a diatom that kind of comes and goes. It's not a big threat to water quality, but if you're by the lake, you might see or hear of someone say, around the shore, there is a bit of green tinge in the water. So that's something that is happening out there now. Again, it's not unusual. One thing that's happening now as well is it's a very high pollen season. I know this happened last year too. A lot of the pollen comes off the pine trees, and it really gives a nasty visual when it's on the water. But that's a very normal activity. It comes and goes and is not really a huge threat to the lake. So I guess that's kind of it on current water quality.
Any questions for Sid on water quality update? Thank you for these graphs. They're always good to see these from time to time and understand what they are. Looks like everything is going well.
Yep. One thing I did want to add and update on our new business, it's not on the agenda, but we are fairly active with the legislative documents that are going on in the state. PFAS, as you know, PFAS is a big thing. It's across the state. It's grabbing the attention of a lot of people, a lot of legislators. It really affects the sewer side of things more than water, because we are a surface water source. We have not. PFAS does not tend to be in surface water bodies. Find it more in groundwater. But we have been supporting legislation that's out there. There's a couple of legislative documents. One in particular is LD 129. There are some competing documents that are essentially trying to put a statutory limit on PFAS of 20 parts per trillion. The Maine Water Utility Association is opposed to that. There's a task force that was put together to look into the PFAS issue that was actually initiated by the governor, and we are supportive of what that committee is coming back with, as opposed to putting a statutory limit on PFAS at this time. PFAS is an evolving science, and it continues to evolve. The EPA has a advisory limit of 70 parts per trillion right now on PFAS. So if the state was to put into statute a limit of 20, that would really restrict any future evolving science that comes out regarding PFAS. So like I said, the Maine Water Utility Association has put that out there to support LD 129, but oppose the other two competing ones. And I did put a note out to Senator Ned Claxton to support LD 129. So we'll see where that goes, but we are remaining as much as we can on top of where this whole PFAS thing is going. It's going to take a few years to shake out and really come back with some real good scientific data on what it is and how much of a threat it really is. So that's something I just wanted to add to that.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope, not on that. No.
Okay, without any other water quality update, I guess we'll move on to the next item, which is an executive session. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
I can second that.
Okay, we're going to go into executive session in accordance with MSRA section 405(6)E And a reminder that we're on Zoom, so if there's anybody within earshot, that we really make sure this is an executive session and only for our ears, please. With that, all in favor of going into executive session, say aye. Then we are
Mike,
now
start
in
the
executive
recording
session.
again.
All right, you are now recording and back in regular open session.
Okay, we're out of executive session. And I would like to make a motion that we accept the RFP that was written along with the notes included with that RFP, and that we make the RFP public to as many firms as we can who are qualified to handle such work, and that we solicit attorney organizations outside of the Lewiston Auburn area, primarily in the Augusta, Portland area, and that we ask Jim Pross, our attorney, for suggestions on who we send those to.
And I'll second that. And when you mention RFP, you're going to mention a description of proposals for legal services, period. Is that how it's going to come out?
Right, yeah, yes, proposals for legal services. So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion beyond what we talked about in executive session? With that in mind, I would ask for a vote of hands and ayes. Who in favor? Aye.
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 Those opposed?
I,
Nah, opposed. I'm opposed because I still feel we should be waiting for the PUC regarding the 10-person complaint before we move on this.
Okay, I understand. We haven't accepted an RFP yet. We're just asking for proposals now, so just keep that in mind. We're not accepting anything. We're just asking for RFP. Definitely. Okay, looks like that passed 4-2. Terrific.
And the public, in case they're watching or want to watch the minutes, just a brief description of the RFP, Andy?
Well, I suppose I can. I mean, I don't have a copy of it right here handy to me. Hold on.
Well, I mean, it's just the Auburn Water District is seeking bids for legal services to determine if our agreements can further what's fair for our ratepayers.
Well,
as far as cost.
Yeah, I mean, the essence of it is that we want an attorney firm to look at all of our memorandum of understandings and our interlocal agreements. There are 8 of them, 8 MRUs and 6 interlocal agreements, looking for the best interest of the Auburn Water District ratepayers to see how we can best save them money over looking at those agreements over our, what we're now paying. And also to look at how these agreements work together and how their interaction with them, especially as it relates to termination, so we know how they're interconnected. And then also to get us to that Y in the road, which is, do we arbitration, or we go to litigation, and be willing and able to do either one if we so choose.
Thank you. That's a fair description in case someone needs to look at the minutes.
Yep. Okay. Well, again, that is off. We're done with new business, on to old business. And the first item was the cost apportionment, which is a standing agenda item until the results of the 10-person PUC complaint. This is obviously part of that cost apportionment discussion, what we just did with this RFP. Does anybody have any other items of interest as it relates to that? We still haven't heard anything from the PUC and probably no idea if we will or when. Sid, do you have any idea if we're ever going to hear from them? Or
I have, no, I periodically check the website. I've seen nothing, and I'm on a notification anyway. When something comes in, I'll be notified. I haven't received anything.
is it at all allowed for us to inquire?
Absolutely.
I mean, should somebody, I don't know if you, Sid, or somebody should call up and say, or send an email or something to find out, is this like anywhere near any priority list or any research being done on it?
Do the trustees want me to call and find out what the status of that is?
That would be great.
If that's appropriate, absolutely. I know obviously these things are political, but I would think, yeah.
Andy, what they may tell him, so the trustees are prepared for this as well, they may ask him to submit a letter, which will be part of the docket. It'll be placed within the docket. So, and that would be an official correspondence between the Auburn Water District and the PUC, but I would definitely try the phone call first.
Okay, I mean, obviously it wouldn't hurt, as long as we're not gonna, cause any problems. I don't see we would.
No?
I don't see how it would cause any problems. I think we should do both. I think we should be on the record with a letter and make the phone call.
Okay,
Yeah, a letter just stating that we're inquiring where they are on making a determination, I guess. Short and
so what we
sweet.
can do is, I don't know if we have to make a motion or not, but maybe at the next meeting, Sid, you could just give us an update under this heading of how that, if that letter went out, or an email, or however it happens.
Okay, yep, I'll check.
Okay, any other cost apportionment discussion? Okay, on to bonding. Again, this is a standing item. I don't know that there's been any progress there, although I would like to make the point that I wish we had, put pipe in the ground a lot faster when it's now triple the price. Who knows how long that's going to last? And the next thing that's going to happen is interest rates are going to start going up. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen, but it seems like the next logical step. That's why I'm thinking we should, maybe for next year's capital program, we look at maybe finding a way to accelerate this a little faster. Things aren't going to get any cheaper by the sound of things, but I guess at some point we are going to have either workshop or discussion on this particular issue, as I understand it. Right, Sid? I mean, we do have some information. We just haven't moved it forward.
Right, we've got, yeah, there have been several inquiries and we've got a lot of information queued up, but it's just a matter of scheduling the time to go over it.
Okay, well, we certainly won't do that tonight where Steve's not around. That's one of his projects as well, so we'll wait till he gets back.
Didn't we already put a couple of placeholders or say when we were going to, generally when we were going to, like, was it said before September or something? I just thought when we last talked about it, we had some time frame in mind to start a workshop about it. Was it for next meeting? I don't see it in any of the minutes, and I did check earlier too. I could be wrong, I guess.
Well, remember, I do know that we were, had it listed as waiting for 10-person complaint thing, which is not a correct reason for a placeholder. But I don't remember us selecting a time or a date certain to address it. But I think that it's getting close to the time when we should, especially when the costs are so high right now. And I worry about if it is going to stand like this and costs are going to be doubled or more. That's just going to either cause us to have to do faster rate increases to keep cash under control or find a different way. I know that Lewiston is increasing their rates dramatically. And one of the things for them was the cost of bonding. I don't know, Sid, this is probably not a discussion for us, but they mentioned it as being a major driver in their reason for increasing rates. Does that mean that they have a lot of money bonded for water infrastructure?
Well, I think the thing that's really driving that is just that they held off for so long. They knew they needed an increase several years ago, but it just didn't happen because of other priorities. They haven't had a rate increase since 2013.
And their effective rate's 25%, right?
Right. Yeah.
23%.
23, but it said 23 and 25, right?
Right. I think the way it's going to hit the user is 25.
25, yeah, but 23, but then when you add in the other factors, it's going to be a 25%. So, but anyway, I mean, could you find out, maybe I can do, I don't know, maybe you can find out how much they have for bonds outstanding for water?
Well, it said in that article that, what was it changing? 40%? I think it was a 40%.
The rate went to pay for bonds.
Yeah, they've got 40% of indebtedness against their expenses as bonds.
Right. So, I mean, we know we don't have that much anywhere near it, but if they've been bonding for infrastructure, there he is, Paul's got it. But if they've been bonding for infrastructure for any length of time, that might be a good thing for us to look at as in this discussion. I certainly don't want to put us in a bad financial position, but I certainly wish that 5 years ago we had doubled our amount of pipe we put in the ground, even if we had to bond for it, because it would be at bargain prices compared to what we're now looking at.
They have done a lot of bonding for their, just for their basic pipe infrastructure.
Sid, do you, on a regular basis, do you get with Kevin besides LawPec? Do you get with Kevin for water and sewer operational stuff?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Has he given you any information about the 23% and what's going on with the bonding? Any kind of insight of how we should be proceeding as well?
Well, I guess the conversation we haven't been in that context, but I know that as I just mentioned, I know that they have, just looking at their bond issuance, I do know that they have bonded a lot for their pipe replacement, which we haven't done here for the last several years. We've taken a different course, a different track than they have when it comes to bonding for capital improvements. But no, I mean, we're in constant contact with what they're doing and how they're operating.
And we're trying to pay for it out of cash flow. And either you're going to bond it or you're going to pay for it out of rate increases. But if you're going to put pipe in the ground, you got to pay for it.
That's right. One way or the other, it's
so.
My argument is we accelerate our pipe in the ground somehow, some way.
Let's have a rate increase and accelerate our pipe in the ground.
As you know, we've bonded for a lot of the larger expenses that we can't fund out of cash on hand. Our bonded indebtedness rate is 28%, right, Tanya?
Correct.
28% of our revenue is for bonded debt. So we are quite a bit lower than Lewiston.
Yeah, but that's not a lot lower. If they're bonding for their pipe replacement primarily, and that's only, 12%.
But they've been behind in pipe replacement, just like every other utility across the state too.
Yeah, so they're really not, Well, that would be a worthwhile discussion for a workshop when it comes to that. And I would love to comparison of organizations that bond more than pay for cash and others that do what we do. I'd really love to see that comparison in a workshop setting, though. It'd be too much for a regular meeting.
Andy, I know you said you wanted to wait because Steve had this going. And I think that the point you made about the incorrect wording on that agenda item, and then the fact that when we last talked about it, I thought it through. We were going to meet. We had a tentative workshop scheduled before the last meeting, and it was up to Steve whether or not to have it. He said we'd think about it, and then he said, no, let's just not have it this time. We're going to wait. Okay. And then I think that wording confused things, and then we just never came back to it. To me, it should have been on this next agenda for a or this next meeting for a workshop. I do want to wait for Steve, and you want him included for sure, but I'd like to see us put a tentative placeholder for a 30-minute workshop, just at least to, at the next meeting, 30-minute workshop, so we can just start this off. So we don't just, maybe it's just fact finding. I mean, we've talked 15 minutes about it here, so I don't think it could hurt to do that. And if Steve gets back, it's his prerogative. He could say, no, let's just wait. I have other plans. But if I get anybody else's input, would you be opposed to throwing a 30-minute workshop before the next meeting?
No, not at all. I think
worst case scenario, we go to 6 p.m. I agree with Jason. We've been following this topic for a while now. So let's just plan on everyone being available till 6 p.m. next meeting. If that works with the other, instead of having a separate workshop meeting for the bonding.
Well, I think that we had one meeting already talking about, and Sid did a great presentation about how the rules work and what the bonding costs are and all that kind of thing. But I think there's more information than that available to us, and maybe a presentation of all the new information of what it would be. And then, but the workshop discussion is going to have to be really a lengthy talk about philosophy. I mean, I know I don't want to borrow money either. And if somebody tells me we want to borrow and it's 25% or 21% interest, which I'm told is because of the surcharges and all that, that's ridiculous. But if there's a way that we can bond at city rates of, what is it, 2%, 2.5%? Why wouldn't we?
Especially while we're retiring older bonds, why can't we keep that same level of diversity?
Yeah, but I guess I haven't been shown, and we haven't, as a group, haven't been shown that we can do it for just basic interest rates. Because I understand that there's engineering costs when you bond. I guess Sid had brought it up before, that brings the rate up to almost 20% if you bond.
Yeah, depending on whether you go with the state revolving loan fund or just the general bond resolution. Tanya and I looked at that quite a bit, and yeah, if you go with a state revolving loan fund bond, it's going to cost you more in administrative fees.
Right, or if we go on our own and we do our own engineering, right, then if we can, then that saves money and we could be more reasonable in our bonding.
Yeah, the general resolution bond had a lot lower fees and a lower rate.
Yeah.
But it it changes. Right now it's good. It all depends on whether you, and the last time we looked at it, the directive I had from Steve at the time was to look into foregoing 1 year of replacement of pipe out of cash and just do it with a bond, only a one-time bond. You can't bond multiple years. It's kind of a catch-22 because you can't bond multiple years of pipe replacement in one shot because you have to spend it within a certain period of time. So this, if we're going to get into that discussion, it's going to be more than 30 minutes to go over.
Oh, no, I wasn't suggesting we do it all in 30 minutes. I just want to get something dedicated to where we're going to sit down and talk about it rather than a placeholder agenda item that when we get to it, we kind of bounce it around and then don't really come back to it in depth.
Well,
let's go to it next week. So it'll be multiple meetings where we're going to have to, I think.
It's an important topic and it's a very involved topic. I think it is. I don't think you're going to tack it onto a meeting because people are going to doze off. But it is important. But there's a lot to think about and a lot to present. It would be a totally different direction and philosophy, and there's a lot of different ways to look at it if you're really going to move ahead and change the way we fundamentally fund our pipe replacements.
So I would think that maybe for the next meeting, we could have that presentation again and get Steve involved, because I know there was some changes of options other than what was first presented back a year ago. I think it was a year ago. And then that would lead to the workshop. And I believe we got to have a workshop before we have our next CIP. We need to make sure that we have a direction that either we're going to stay the course, which means, as Casey said, we're going to have to increase a lot if construction costs are going to remain this high. We got to do a huge increase to pay out of cash. Whereas if we were bonding, we could minimize those increases because we're talking about an interest rate and taking something and bonding it over 10 years or whatever, as opposed to paying for it in cash. That may be what we have to do because the prices are so high. I mean, we can't do, how much was it, Mike, how much was it for a mile of pipe? Do we say $600,000 before this craziness? Oh, he's muted. Muted.
We budgeted, under 750,000 to do 2 miles of pipe this year. So that number's evolving and changing this year. So
if that goes to $2 million for the same thing, how can we pass that on to ratepayers immediately? That means rates go up exponentially and go up even higher. Yeah, we don't have bonding at the end. We don't have interest that we're paying, but how do we continue that, capital improvement plan out of cash if it's going to double and stay up there or triple? So those are questions we don't know about. Hopefully this is going to be just this year, but I think by the time we do our next CIP, we should know, is this an option? And that means a workshop after the next meeting, my opinion. First, we have a presentation next meeting and then schedule a workshop.
That sounds good.
Yep. So you want, at the next trustee meeting, you want a presentation on the basics of bonding, what's out there and what advantages and disadvantages?
Right, so kind of what you did last summer. I think it was last summer you did one.
Yeah, I started, I got cut off.
But also there's the options to go with, so we wouldn't have to have that fancy administrative fee stuff. If we were just going on our own, bonding the money, and then we did the work, or we hired it out, but we handled it, the engineering in-house, whatever, so save money. And then with that basic information, give people a chance to absorb it, and then have a workshop scheduled for sometime after that, a week or two after that, so we can get together and really brainstorm this and hack it out. If it doesn't make sense, I don't want to cost us money. I just think that, especially with what's going on with interest rates and what's going on with the cost of pipe replacement, like, you know, cars go twice as double in price, and that means you have to, you know, either finance it for a longer period of time or don't do it.
I don't remember why you were cut off that last time, Sid. Did we just move on because of the time?
Yeah, that's what it was. I mean, it was a busy agenda and the bonding conversation was on it, and I started it, and it was clear that people were tired, and I just got cut off.
Is there a way we could just stick to just kind of updating us on some of the facts that have changed? And then really, I think our work at the next meeting should be what questions are we asking, or what are we covering in a workshop, rather than just say, hey, let's just have a workshop and talk about it. I really think we need to be targeted about what we're thinking through, because like we're doing now, we could easily just go back and forth for forever on it.
I think the representation of what you already had with any edits or updates, maybe you can send it out to us, because I remember it was on a PowerPoint, if I remember right. And then from there, take it to the next step, which is it feasible?
What I can do is put together something that's maybe not, like you mentioned, something that would lead into a workshop, maybe the basics of bonding, a few scenarios of how we could use it, and how that would impact the budget or potential rate increases.
And I really think we need to look into also, maybe you can lead us in the direction of organizations that are doing more bonding for pipe. And maybe you can do a questionnaire when you're talking with some of your associates in the business. Some of them that are bonding more than paying out of cash, or some that are doing what we're doing. And I don't know. That would be part of the workshop process, is to see. If Lewiston has got 40% of their budget is bond costs, but their infrastructure is worse than ours, that means they're not using it. They're not bonding for infrastructure, or if they are, there's a real issue in another direction. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if they're able to keep up with their pipe replacement and they're in good shape and they're at 40% of their budget and we're at 28, 12% is not a big difference if it's effective for them to bond for their pipe replacement. Although it's a city department, so I don't know what happens to rates. Do their rates go directly to the city and general fund, and they get a budget like every other department, or do they get to keep all their rates and use it like we would? That I don't know either. And again, that could be all part of the discussion in a workshop.
So the consensus I heard, Andy, earlier was we're going to have our next meeting, we're going to get an update, and then we're going to schedule a workshop.
That's what I think, yes.
Is everyone else in favor of that?
Okay, then it'll be an agenda item for next meeting as a presentation, and, you know, with the idea that we're not going to turn it into a 3-hour discussion, a presentation, and then the discussion will happen at a workshop scheduled separately.
Cool.
Okay, cool. All right, on to the next item, the COVID-19 update. Good.
Yeah, not a ton of stuff here. We have opened up the front office for payments now. We did have the office totally closed, but we are allowing customers to come into the closed off section so they can transact business. It used to be from the window out on the street, but we have opened that up. We're still, just like everyone else, we're watching the CDC, watching the governor's latest directives, It sounds like on May 24th, things are going to be loosened up a bit where people don't need to wear masks outside and most inside spaces as well. If you read the fine print, from the way I interpret that, it looks like that is not going to include any building that's considered to be public. The mask mandate is still in effect. Unless something changes, we are not planning to open up our inside building to have it mask free. I know a lot of the employees are asking about it, but I don't want to be the first one to open up and then have someone get sick. I'm waiting until the directive comes down that there's no mask mandate inside. So that's kind of where that whole situation is. I know that a lot of people here have been vaccinated, and I know things are loosening up, but I'm waiting for the governor to declare that the pandemic is over and there's no more need for masks.
As far as going forward, we had the sewer district meeting at the district, but in the garage. If going forward, does anybody have any objections to starting with live meetings there? And hopefully the state will, start loosening things up. So eventually we'll be back in the office again. But for right now, as long as, would that work for people?
I have zero objection to live meetings. I just like the option, especially if the office is, just like Sid said, if the office is still hybridized and closed to the public, and we've got other areas of our lives where we're remote for different reasons, I think we need to leave that option open. And if it's an AV issue and we need to figure out a, cost-effective solution in the short term.
You mentioned something about that, Jason, about the AV issue. Mike, what number are you talking to get us? I mean, it actually worked. That meeting with Mary was up there. She had a little bit of problem hearing, but what do we need to spend to have both in person and Zoom like we had one with that one meeting?
I think I know Sid was looking at, we were talking about that. We're looking at some sort of monitor that we would set up. You're looking at microphones for the different participants. While we made it work with Mary that time, she was hybrid and we're else in person at the recreation building. It was not easy, and we were kind of clunky just using tablets, and we lost her several times throughout the meeting, and she wasn't able to see us. And I don't know if you'd call it a true hybrid or that we were just getting it done. I'm not sure. As far as costs, I think by the time you get the microphones and the equipment and then set up the electrical to do that in a space where we could stay more than 6 feet apart, I think you're looking at, $4,000 to $5,000 would be my rough estimate to do that.
Is that because of the video or because we're talking about doing it in a garage? I mean, if we're in the community, in the community center there at the rec, you need a conference call phone, you put in the middle of everybody, and those a couple $100 for one of those, one of the speakers with it's got the microphones in different angles, and not necessarily, you're talking about miking everybody up individually and.
Well, yeah, miking everybody and making it so that truly everybody in the meeting can see and hear everything that's part of the meeting, whether that be a visual that's brought up during the meeting, whether that's something that's discussed during the meeting. The phones, if the phone is an option, you can get it done with the phone. You can have a conference call with the phone, but can you, all look at the same materials? If we're presenting a project map, if we're looking at something, there's going to be limited access to that. So to set it up so that they have the same access we would have in a full meeting, I think you're looking at $4,000 to $5,000. If you're just wanting to have conference calls as part of the meeting, and we don't have to spend any money, we can do that. Again, it's just depending on how far you want to take it. If you want to have everybody to have full access to everything in a meeting, I think you're looking $4,000 to $5,000. And the other part that we've run into, you can't necessarily bank on that. I know we weren't able to even secure a room last month. It just wasn't even possible. We could not find a room. A lot of venues aren't. The rec building is limited, and they've got a lot of people trying to use it, and it wasn't available for us. We couldn't find any other public facility that was going to be available. So if we try to bank on that's going to be available, I don't know if that's going to work out.
And our internet access in the garage is not good either.
How's the
Signal
internet
up.
over at the UV plant?
What's that?
How's the internet over at the UV plant?
Yeah, we're trying to limit people out there as well until this is over too. We're not having any public anything out there at the UV plant. We're not even having tours or anything.
So once COVID is done, then that might be an option to actually have our meetings at the UV plant if we can do both in person and zoomed in.
Well, once COVID is over, I'm assuming we can just go back to our conference room.
Yeah, no, that's the whole point of the discussion, I think, Sid, is to have the option of doing either or. If someone can't physically be here, like for instance, our president, it'd be a good example to have either or option,
I personally think it would be a good idea to look at, if we thought the technology was going to last long enough, I have no problem with looking at an expenditure that would make our conference room there easy to do both recordings of meetings and also remote if necessary.
Yep.
So ready for the possible next pandemic or whatever problem might come up. It just make good sense to look into it, as long as it's not a technology that next year we got to add another 5,000 and next year after that something new comes up, type thing. If it's something that we can do, maybe you can look into it for us, because I really do think that the new future is going to be the option.
And I think a lot, like maybe this group and other groups like us aren't used to it, but I mean, my company's had video conference calls for years at multiple companies, and we're all sitting in an office, and even if everybody's in the office, they're all sit around a desk with a screen, and it's not, yes, COVID is a different thing, but we're talking about kind of two separate issues, short-term solution, and then just the reality of the long-term that, someone can't make a meeting, but they could dial in or video in.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think that when it comes to government meetings and public meetings, I'm one of these guys that I can't wait for it, because I really do think that the public has been somewhat excluded, even though every option is there. You can still zoom into any one of the St. Louis and Auburn meetings if you take the effort to do it. But I really think people haven't. And whenever they were open to the public, you got a lot more participation. As long as it's a place somebody could just go to the meeting, have their say, and leave instead of having to dial in or worry about a Zoom connection. Or it's been sad what's happened, I think, at City Hall with the meetings, because you don't get anybody that shows up. And there used to be at least a dozen in the audience, and at least 3 or 4 spoke every meeting. And COVID has just taken that away. So I hope that we can go back to public meetings again, but I also think we should have the option for those people who don't want to do that. And if it only costs us a few $1,000s to make our meeting more publicly accessible, then maybe we should look into it. That's my.
Hey guys, I have to check out.
Okay, well, any more discussion on COVID-19? I think we're off to trustee open session, and Kevin, if you need to, that's fine. Which is the last item on the agenda is unless you have something for trustee open session.
I do not.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Right,
So
well, thank you, guys.
is there a consensus to go ahead and spend a couple $1,000 for AV?
Yeah,
I think-
well,
No, because I think we need to price it out and get some real options. That's a good guess, but I disagree that that's our only option.
Yeah, I think we should look into what the options are and what they will give us. And then maybe for the next meeting, we can just have a quick item to look at.
Okay.
I agree that we should look at it and see if it's feasible for a few $1,000. It's going to give us what we want, and then we can vote on that. If it's going to be a lot of money, then I guess we have to think about it.
Okay.
Yep, I agree with Andy to look at it. I mean, we have great equipment, we have great employees, we have good everything, but the AV is down. So let's bring that up to our standard at the district.
Sense. Okay, on to trustee open session. Anybody have anything that they want to present? I think we've had a good meeting and a lot for future agenda items, but I'm all set.
Motion to adjourn.
Well, I hear a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll see you next meeting, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.